Oh, baby, a good Monday on the roast, having some fun. No Niners, no Warriors, so we had a stress-free weekend. Stress-free. It was a lot of fun. Good morning, everybody out there getting off your graveyard shifts. Good morning, everybody, if you're getting ready for work. If you're at work, teachers, firefighters, cops, students, all the high schools getting ready for playoff season. I saw Sarah put a whooping on my boys from Sacred Heart Saturday afternoon. SI's in a playoff. They're in the CCS Division II playoff bracket. I know Sacred Heart is. So it's playoff season. De La Salle, they beat Clayton Valley. A lot of good stuff happening in the high school scene, Shasky.
And then don't forget about volleyball because Sacred Heart beat Santa Cruz in the D3 CCS championship, I believe.
Yep. Shout out to the Irish volleyball team.
Yeah.
Those girls could play, man. They've had a good program for a long, long time. All right, we got Anthony Slater here. But before we get Slater, don't forget to tune in to Warriors Live on 95.7 The Game, presented by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi, unbeatable internet, only from Xfinity. Warriors Live, 6:30, am I correct? 6:30, 30 minutes before tip-off? 6:30. But right here at 8:03, we got Anthony Slater on 95.7 The Game Insider, who's not only a Warriors beat writer, but he's been covering the Kings as well up in Sacramento, so he knows a little bit of both. He's been up there in Sacktown. What up, Slater?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You've been getting some Kings in your system here. They beat Orlando Saturday. Not a lot of people were watching down here, but to come back like they did against Orlando was pretty cool. To see Fox go off like that and hit a shot from the logo in overtime to win that game. But let's talk about the Warriors. Fresh start homestand, I guess we could say. 5-game losing streak, of course. All 5 coming on the road. What was your biggest takeaway from that 0-5 road trip?
Oh man, I'd say the young guys are more behind than is ideal, than it was planned in a lot of ways. I think they knew growing pains were going to happen coming into the season, but I think it's just been tougher than expected. I just didn't think they, believed they were going to bleed so much when they put any type of bench units on the floor, and it's the fact that Steve Kerr is coming out and basically announcing that rotation changes are needed before he makes them. That's kind of rare for any coach really to do, but it just shows you that they are admitting that their rotation at this point is not working. And to me, that's kind of the biggest takeaway, because that's what they're clearly doing. They believe that'll help solve what's going on.
Yeah, and I just feel like they got deeper problems. Not that this isn't a problem. It absolutely is. And the bench has been a problem for a variety of different versions of the Warriors for the last 6 or 7 years. But what's the number one most important thing that they have to change if they want to win?
Motivation level, I guess. It's the defense, right? What are they right now, 25th? Or at least they were right around there entering the weekend. This is a team that built that 18-2 start last year as the number one defense, and then in the playoff, held firm on that, and they won the title, and they've always succeeded this dynasty on that end of the floor. That's what's kind of been their underrated backbone, and they just don't have that right now. So if we're just identifying problem number one, it's just they can't defend a bottom 10 team in the league, or else they look like the team they're playing tonight, the Kings, right? That's been the Kings' problem for about a decade and a half. They're always bottom 10. Well, the Warriors are defending like that right now.
Anthony Slater, on 95.7 The Game Insider, here on the Morning Roast with Shasky and Bonte. Slater, how relatable is it? I guess, how much does it have to do with Jordan Poole's struggles? The fact that James Wiseman has struggled so bad, does that have an impact on Jordan Poole's struggles with that second unit? What did you make of that? Because we saw Jordan Poole Friday night against the Pelicans struggle again with the over-dribbling, bad shot selection. But how much of his struggles have to do with James Wiseman?
Yeah, I think some of it, and I was definitely a proponent of really trying out the Poole-Wiseman pick and roll as kind of the identity of the second unit, but that comes with defensive issues right now, because you have a guy on the perimeter who's not really staying in front of anybody, and then you have a big on the back end who's just not ready to be an elite rim protector, and is kind of thrown into a bunch of action and exploited. And obviously the numbers just from a plus-minus standpoint don't look good. As far as Poole goes, though, he seems like he's pressing. I believe Kerr post-game he just said he's trying too hard, and I do think when he's kind of panicked or pressing like that, he reverts to who he's kind of been as his core as a basketball player, which is he dances with the basketball, right? It's a lot of side-to-side stuff. You saw the 3 carrying violations in Miami, and just they have tried to beat out of him over the last few years that, I guess just like the ball sticking. They've tried to 0.5 basketball, catch it and move it or shoot it or pass it, but Warriors style, movement. And he, in some ways he's equipped for that. He's very good off the ball. I think he's learned a lot of Steph Curry's pet actions, and he shoots with Klay Thompson coming off pin downs in practice. And so much of what he does, you saw it during the playoff run. But at the same time, I just think when he's like, "Hey, I'm the leader of this second unit," or in a game like the Pelicans one, I'm our primary scorer, playmaker, best player on the floor. He just does too much out there, and he's doing too much right now. But I mean, this is not. We've seen this with Jordan Poole. We saw it last season, during long stretches. So it's not something I'm overly concerned about. But he does need to play much better.
Well, reading Jordan's body language and just the teams in general, where is the joy gone? Like, it just feels, and I know it's a long season, it's November. This was a team that played so charismatic and played so united, and chemistry is the word I keep coming back to. Where is that?
Well, they're not winning. That's has a lot to do with it. When you're 3-5 and coming into the game, pressure's on, people are critiquing you. Hey, Jordan Poole, you're 2-9. Well, guess what everybody's talking about right now? The fact that you're 2-9 shooting in the middle of the second quarter. And also, it's tougher to defend the title. There's less, they entered last season with just such hunger to climb back into the conversation. You had people picking them as out of the playoffs last year. I mean, I thought I was being optimistic. I was like, 6th seed maybe. They were like, no, they wanted to, stamp themselves as elite, and that just provided such, almost playoff level motivation in the first couple months of last season. And that leads to just hungry play. And I just don't think that's there. I think we kind of knew that, but it's just not as much there for them. They're being hunted instead of being the hunter earlier this season. I think you're just seeing that in, kind of bland regular season basketball. Whereas, the Orlando Magic have all these young guys that are like, ooh, we got the Warriors in town tonight. About to make a name for ourselves tonight. That's just kind of the difference. And it's not like that team last season had, the last thing we remember of them is that unbelievable playoff run. But there were 6-14 stretches where the basketball was really dull.
Yeah.
And the defense was bad.
Otto Porter Jr. was their best player for a stretch there. You know what I mean? In terms of consistency. Yeah. Just let me interrupt you here, and I don't mean to. You don't think the Draymond Green punch has anything to do with what's going on now? Because it does feel like the chemistry, fair or not, it just feels off.
Iciness is what you said a few weeks ago, Slater. Iciness.
Yeah. I would say this. The tension, directly related to the punch feels like it's lifted. If you're in the locker room, if you're around the team, I mean, it does feel like, old Draymond, joking with the veterans, chatting with the young guys. There's no more conversations I have around the team where, it's directly, you're talking about the punch. Where I would say I have heard, the indirect effect of it is you do talk to some, coaches or, people around the team, and it's like they didn't feel like they got necessary preseason prep. They don't feel like it was, and, some of that is the Japan trip too, right? That was kind of a unique part of the preseason, but obviously, they had a, whatever you want to call it, a 10-day saga thrown in the middle, and they weren't as prepped for the season as they probably needed to be. And then the other thing, as far as, you're talking different, chemistry aspects, they're just super young. And, I know you only added 2 more rookies, but you basically added 2 more rookies in the place of Damian Lee and JTA, who were the, ready-made veterans who were dancing on the bench after big plays. You seeing that from Ryan Rollins? You seeing that from Patrick Baldwin? Yeah. There's less life, but a lot of that is just because there's a couple extra teenagers over there, and there's an empty roster spot, and
But don't you find it? But don't you find it almost laughable the way? And I'm not saying you are, but I'm seeing this from a lot of the fan base, and it's dude, people, the minute that JTA or Damian Lee checked into a game, it was oh my God, what are they doing? How could they play this guy? And now a year later, it's they're losing because Bielitsa's not here, and JTA's not here, and Damian Lee, and it's wait a minute, I thought everybody couldn't stand these guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not the if they had those guys, maybe they're 4-6 right now. I don't know. I mean, they're just not playing good defense. Right. But I just think generally, you're asking more about fringe stuff bench decorum right now, and life in a team, and 28-year-olds that know how to play that role, which is juice up the life of the team on the bench. And then when you go in, and I wrote a story this morning about Kuminga. We may get to Kuminga, but he's going to be in the rotation tonight. Very well deserved. But he's on the road trip, and he's not in the rotation. Wiseman gets in foul trouble. They put him out there, and he's not ready for the first defensive possession. P.J. Washington ripped by him.
Mm-hmm.
They put him in the game in Detroit, and I put the video in the story, but he's blowing on his hands. They put him in to guard Bogdanovich, one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He's blowing on his hands because he's cold. He's coming into the game, and as he's blowing on his hands, Bogdanovich just curls around the screen, and Kuminga's super late. He has to rush over and fouls him, and it's just like Damian Lee or JTA, say what you want. Like, if they were playing three possessions on an entire road trip, like, they were locked in for those three possessions.
No doubt.
And that is just, there's just small differences where, but again, we can peel back to your original point. Like, no, that is not like what is all that ails this team right now. They're 3-7 mostly because they're just not playing, their brand of defense.
Well, and we're talking to Anthony Slater here on the Morning Rush on 95.7 The Game. And look, I want to get to Wiseman in a second and talk about his development and where he's at. But to your point about being 3-7, the way I look at it, despite all those pitfalls with the youngsters, blowing by defensively, giving up all the points in the first half, and teams shooting nearly 50% in the first half against the Golden State Warriors, Charlotte, they're up 4 with a minute left. Miami, they scored 2 points in the last 5:03. And it gets Orlando. Steph comes up with 2 big turnovers. Wiggins smokes a layup. So I'm not blaming the starters for the loss. Though that said, the starters had a chance to bring it home, and they're not bringing it home because they're blowing defensive assignments late. They're turning the ball over. At some point, the starters had to take accountability for it. It's not all on them, but they're the money players, Slater. They're the big money guys.
Yeah, and I do think, and I understand this thought process from them, but there's not that much urgency right now. Think they're really that concerned they're 3-7? You think that Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins and Draymond are looking around like, I'm not sure if we got it this year. They're just we'll turn it on when we need to turn it on. That might mean tonight. I mean, if I had to predict tonight, I think they're going to come out looking good.
Yeah.
I think they're going to kind of put their foot down tonight a little bit. And they were frustrated with themselves. Post game in Charlotte, Draymond is bringing up the stat about he could count on his hand the amount of times they've blown a 4-point lead in the final minute.
Mm-hmm.
Steph's blaming himself for trying to play hero ball, and I think they know that they mentally need to lock in, but I also at the same time can understand that there is a frustration level from them that every first quarter, on the trip, basically they're delivering 6-7 point leads in the first 6 minutes, and by the time they're back together to start the second half, they're down because every time they put the bench in, it's a guaranteed minus. And there's just, you can, when they put the first sub in now, you can just kind of sense, everybody's thinking about it. All right, well, it's +6 right now. What's it going to be in about 6 minutes? So I think there's a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, at the end of the day, your 35-minute per night players are your most important players, and they do collectively need to play better.
No doubt. And finally, James Wiseman. Obviously, he's been the number one scapegoat for this Warriors fan base. You're on Twitter. You see it. You talk to the fans. We all talk to the fans. Wiseman, look, he hasn't played well. I'll be the first to admit that. Number 2 overall pick, 2020, hasn't played well. He's played in, what is it now, 49 games in the regular season for the Golden State Warriors. Hasn't played well. So what does it mean to him with these rotation changes? Is he going to pick up DMPs? Is he not going to play? Is he going to go back to the G League? Or maybe he's just not a fit with this team. What do you think about James Wiseman? What's your assessment of him so far through the first 10 games?
Yeah, I think there's a chance he doesn't get, I think there's a chance he gets DMPs coming up. I think there's looking at, every lineup combination that everybody's looking at, and, he's obviously a major part of many of the negative units. He hasn't played well. I mean, you kind of alluded to his fit, within the Warriors. They're trying to make him a high energy backup big. And it doesn't seem that equipped for that at this standpoint, at this point of his career. It's he's not a dirty work, set hard screens, come in,
right,
bash around for rebounds. You saw those type of guys on the road trip, right? The Nick Richards
right,
in Charlotte, the Isaiah Stewarts. Those are the guys that really succeed as, 6 minutes per half come out. Stewart plays more, but generally, you know what I mean.
Right.
6 minutes per half, they come out throw their body around, and just do a bunch of small stuff. Looney in a lot of ways is like really fits that role. Now he's a starter on the team for good reason, but Wiseman is just trying to, discover who he is, and obviously he has a long-term hope of, being a high usage, post scorer and different stuff like that. And it is tough because on this team, his current role doesn't really allow for that, and it's kind of an odd fit. And I don't know if his development will be better just like doing that, but doing it with Santa Cruz for a little while, and maybe that helps them. But it doesn't look great right now, and even if it's 9 minutes per game, it is kind of weighing them down for about 9 minutes per game.
Right. Yeah, it's not good at all for James Wiseman. Go ahead, Shasky.
Quick little, like 10 seconds or less. At what point in the season would you consider major moves if you were the Warriors? Do you have to be around 500, around the deadline, All-Star break, before then? Like, at what point would you consider, as someone who watches this team in and out, that they need to make some major moves?
Well, a win is the deadline, right? That's the checkpoint for all teams across the league. Like, do we need to pivot? Do we need to stick to the plan? Do we not? So deadline is win. What I would consider, it's just going to depend on how it all looks and how all the young players look by then. I don't think there's major move, but, this roster could use a buyout veteran potentially, or, just a couple extra guys at the end of the rotation.
Agreed.
No doubt about
Thanks,
that.
Anthony.
Slater, we'll see you later tonight at Chase Center when the Warriors take on the Kings. Kings feeling good after beating Orlando on Saturday. What, lot? You like this stuff, Anthony. It's not just, hey, they're the best human league. There's nothing to write about. There's a lot of things going on with the Golden State Warriors, man. You got to be loving life right now at The Athletic.
Oh, yeah, some stuff going around the Sacramento Kings. I know we didn't get to it, but, we'll see tonight. De'Aaron Fox is good.
Nobody here cares.
No, hey, De'Aaron Fox. I care, right. Slater. I'm on the league pass, baby. I'm watching Magic and Kings on my iPhone. They are fun. Kings good.
There's one.
Kings good, man. They're fun. They're fun.
I think they're facing some trouble tonight, though, I will say.
Get right game for the Golden State Warriors. We'll see about that. Cleveland be fun Friday. Cleveland's legit, Anthony.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
That's enough of you two spooning over teams no one cares about.
Hey, we'll do it later on today. See, you got to get Shasky. See, Shasky's beating my head over baseball all day long, and I played the game with him for an hour and a half. We talk a little league pass here. There's some good teams out there. Cleveland, Milwaukee's playing well, Dallas. How about Portland beating the Suns on the last-second shot Friday night? Slater, school this guy, man.
Well, Shasky's problem is he's got the baseball mindset. In baseball, it's a regional sport, right? You only care about your team. That's understandable. Yeah. Basketball, it's 30 teams. It's a much more intermingled league. I watch every team.
Dude, I'm telling you. Utah, how about Utah last night beating the Clippers?
Slater, who's coaching the Orlando Magic right now?
Jamal Mosley.
Yeah, you knew that. Bonte did not.
I did not know that last week. I forgot about it, but I knew about it. I named her. Hey, Anthony, I named her roster 1 through 10 with no Google. I know the players on the court. And how about Utah? Utah, huh?
Hey, Paulo Banchero can't get you excited, Chad.
There you go.
No, he was fine. But guys, dear God, the NBA, no one cares about the Kings. I'm just telling you the truth.
That's disrespectful, Shasky.
No, I'm telling you factually.
I want to talk some, Aaron Judge free agency right now.
Yes.
So move on to that segment. You don't want to talk
When ESPN moves Nick Friedel from Brooklyn to the Sacramento King beat, I will then pay attention.
Slater's doing both beats now. Now you better pay attention.
Hey, there's some buzz down here locally. I know it may not make its way down to SF, but I'm telling you, the cowbells are out for the Mike Brown.
Hey, Slater, I'm with you with the cowbells, baby. Golden One Center, here we come. Kings got something brewing up there, something special.
They're playing Sunday, by the way. There's a Warriors Kings rematch Sunday. Y'all should come up.
Nah, I can't come up for that.
On a Sunday when I'm going to the Charger game?
I actually got.
Who are you kidding?
I got the day off for that one. Sunday night
Niners
football.
Chargers, dog.
I got the day off, Slater. Hey, I'll see you later at Chase Center, man.
All right, fellas.
All right, Anthony Slater, one of the best in the business, man. He's a lot of fun.